Hey everybody, I had a couple people ask me when I posted on Twitter that I was trying to figure out how to get my POD HD500 to operate as an Ableton controller through MIDI. A couple people tweeted me and asked me to post whatever I figured out. So here it is. I'm not a guru by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I may have figured this little piece out. So hopefully it'll help you guys out. First thing is you want to make sure you connect your pod through the USB cable that's provided and get into your POD HD editor, which comes with the Line 6 software. So pull up your POD HD editor, and mine is not connected. You can see that right there, but it doesn't really matter for the purposes of this. So just go ahead and connect it in, and then find a new patch that you want to use. So just find a blank patch somewhere just to kind of mess around with it and see what happens. So we don't have anything in the signal chain right here, but we do have these foot switches, and some of them are signed to things and some of them are not. In this patch specifically, nothing is assigned. So what you'll do is you'll come down here to the MIDI assign portion of this window and dial this dial back and select the foot switch that you want to use. Now you can use anything from the first foot switch all the way through 8, even the looper button, the tap button, the expression pedal toe, and then both functions of the expression pedal. So for what I would do, actually just a second ago I was trying to do it all along the bottom row of my pod, so I went to foot switch 5. Now this is really kind of weird, and this may not happen for you, but for me it happens. You can actually click right here in the title window for that foot switch, and you can drag things up and down. But what I found is when I did that, it would erase everything that I had done. So you have to use this knob. You have to click on the knob and scroll up and down if you want to retain all your settings. So I go to foot switch 5. I come down to MIDI channel and go to MIDI channel 1. I don't know if I should select a different one or not. Somebody can maybe comment in and tell me if I need to select a different channel. But MIDI channel 1. And then for the message, I'm scrolling all the way over to the right and doing note on. You can do all kinds of different things. Program change, controller, I don't even know what that means, but just go all the way up to note on. And then over here in the note value, I just kind of lined them up. So I did, C0 for this switch right here is going to trigger that note. And I turned my velocity on it all the way up. So that basically means that this switch right here is sending out C0 at velocity 127. Then I switch over to foot switch 6, do the same thing, MIDI channel 1, switch this all the way over to note on, and then I bump this up just a little bit to C sharp, and now we have C and C sharp. We've got two different notes being triggered here. And you can go all the way across like that. One thing I did notice is that I really wanted to try and use the looper button. But when I did that, it actually, by hitting the looper button, it activated the looper function on the pod itself, and it deactivated all of these foot switch controls because they change function once you activate the looper. So I'm not sure how to turn that off. I'll have to figure that out. If somebody knows how to do that, let me know. So that's what you can do with all your foot switch buttons down here. And then if you want to control the expression pedal, you can come over to expression pedal and maybe assign that to control a parameter. So maybe you assign that as, let's see here, yeah, you're going to assign, and I guess you have to kind of know a little bit about MIDI to figure out what parameter you want to control using that right there. And then you can set your minimum and maximum value. So once you have that set up and you have these things triggering MIDI notes, go over and hit send selected. And if I had mine connected, you'd be able to do that. And it will send that patch to your pod. And then one thing about the pod is that it will not send MIDI through your USB. So that's a trick. You're not going to be able to receive MIDI notes through your USB connection. So you can actually disconnect the USB. And I have a little USB MIDI Uno device that I use whenever I'm using a different keyboard. And it just plugs into the MIDI output on the back of the pod and plugs into the USB input on your computer. So you're going to need some kind of a small MIDI interface. Maybe you have an MBox or something like that. That would work. So disconnect your pod from USB and get the MIDI out on your pod into the USB of your computer, and then you can switch over to Ableton. When you're in Ableton, the first thing to do is go to your preferences. So Apple comma and go to preferences, and you want to get to this MIDI sync window. And you want to make sure that when I first did this, there was nothing listed here on the input window for my pod. So you want to go over to input and select whatever your interface is that you're using to receive those MIDI notes. So that's my USB Uno. That's now going to allow the MIDI from the pod to input into Ableton. Then come down here and you can see I've got my MPK Mini, which is just a little keyboard. At first, this button was turned off and it just had track on and it was not working. So I went over and turned remote on, and that helped me. I don't know if I'm supposed to or not. You can let me know. But this is what I've done. So make sure you do this, put this in the input, turn remote on, and then you can click out of this window. Now, basically, when you go to your MIDI mapping mode, you should be able at this point to click anything that you want to map. Like for instance, let's see here, I'm going to switch out of here, and I actually added a looper to this MIDI channel right here, and I'll drop in a keyboard as well. So here's a little keyboard in there, just a basic piano and then a looper. Where did that looper go? I really don't know what I'm doing here, so just bear with me. So here's the looper. I'll drag that in as well. And so now what I want to do is I want to come into MIDI mapping mode, and I'm going to select this button right here, which is the loop on and off, and then I'm going to click the pedal on the pod that I had assigned, and you can see it's reading in as C-1. And then for undo, I'm going to click the next one, and it's registering the next pedal. And then for clear, I'm going to go here. For the stop button right here, I'm going to do that right there. And that basically gives me 4 MIDI functions. So if I want to do something on a loop, all I have to do is just go like this. And now it's looping endlessly, and you can do that with your foot, which is pretty awesome. So there you go. That's what I've got. Please, I know that there's ways to improve on this, and I'm sure there's many steps that I included that don't need to be included. So leave me a comment. Let me know if there's something you figure out. And hopefully this is helpful to you. So